The next speaker is Dr. Amar Patnaik.
Thank you, sir. So my urge to join politics, quitting the civil services about 2 years ago, was motivated by only one person. To him, politics was not a means to achieve power, but a passion to serve the people. When I eventually quit, he gave me and all party members a talisman, and that was Gandhi's talisman. And I quote, "Whenever you are in doubt or when the self becomes too much with you, apply the following test. Recall the face of the poorest and the weakest man whom you may have seen and ask yourself if the step you contemplate is going to be of any use to him. Will it restore him to a control over his own life and destiny? Then you will find your doubts and yourself melting away." This talisman forms the soul of Naveen Patnaik and our party Biju Janata Dal's politics and has guided Odisha's governance and policy all through. There couldn't have been a better moment than the current pandemic when this was put to test. During this time, during the initial period, the Chief Minister chose life over livelihood and later life with livelihood. He never called migrants as migrants but guest workers. It is for no reason that he has surveys after surveys have found him as the #1 Chief Minister of India. He often says that Sadhe Chari Koti Odia More Parivar. Now, what did he do in the pandemic as Odisha's COVID response? All 94 lakh poor families covered under the food security scheme received financial assistance of rupees 1,000 even before the central government had announced it. Social security pension for 4 months to 48 lakh beneficiaries. Construction workers were paid 1,500 each for losses incurred due to the lockdown, 22 lakhs. 3 months pre-matric scholarships was paid as an advance. Financial assistance of rupees 3,000 to around 65,000 street vendors across 114 urban local bodies was paid. Doubling of number of jobs offered under Mahatma Gandhi Narega scheme to 10 lakh. The spouse and next of the kin of the deceased ASA and Anganwadi workers were paid 7,500 and 500 a month till the dates you would have attained the age of 60 years. So the Centre too responded. We are happy that the Centre too responded for the poor with the announcement of the Prime Minister's Garib Kalyan Yojana. And then when in the later part, it went into the Life with Livelihood mission, the Atmanirbhar packages. The state also did something on its own, 1,700 crore special livelihood intervention plan to generate employment in rural areas. If the economy was decimated, it was ravished more for the states than the Centre. After all, we know that fiscal and monetary space available to the states compared to the Centre is very limited. It is against this background and Gandhi's talisman that I would like to evaluate this budget. And at the same time, I would like to say that the current budget has been given against the context. Mr. Sibalji was right when he said that it is the context. The context is not only in India, it is global. The entire economy everywhere had collapsed. It is against this background that the responses have to be seen. The good thing about the budget is it is a bold effort to breach the FRBM mandated fiscal deficit targets by increasing capital investment by about 34%. I also think that the budget gave a definite policy direction in the medium and the long term for country's finances and economy, which is good for private investment and FDI to come in. It introduced developmental financial institutions, allocation for COVID vaccine, which members have already said, asset monetization. But one important thing about transparency, which the budget brought in after 70 years of independence, is the food subsidy budget being brought inside the budget document and it therefore into the government account and not keeping it outside the budget as an extra budgetary item. I will use the framework, sir, therefore, of equity, climate and gender symmetry, and lastly, federalism, cooperative federalism that has been talked about while talking about the budget. The inequalities in India has been talked about. During the budget, sir, 1,70,000 people lost their jobs every hour in the month of April. The Niti Aayog had also, in its index 2019, had reported about increase in poverty in 22 states since 2018, 24 states across 7 indicators and several such indicators. The pandemic only exacerbated this problem. So I would probably think that this budget is very strong on intent, but there could have been more empathy for Gandhi's poor that I talked about. The fund allocation to the development sector has come down from 1.37% in 2020-21 budget estimates to 1.30% in 2021-22. If you take out the food budget, the total stimulus is just about 1% more than the BE of last year. But it is understandable that the pandemic was there. When we talk about equity, we also have to be cognizant of the fact that the size of the cake has to increase. Therefore, there has to be a growth impetus. When I talk about the fact that more could have been done, I refer to agriculture, which is the largest employer in this country, but the allocation has decreased by 8.5%. Textiles, the increase is 3%, but capital expenditure has decreased by 20%. That is the second highest employer. School and education and literacy, the decrease is 8.3%, higher education 2.82%, animal husbandry 5.7%, empowerment of persons with disabilities 11.6%, women and child development 18%. These are all down. Therefore, I am worried. I am concerned. Even in the infrastructure push that one has been talking about, this will get accentuated. This inequality will probably get accentuated because the flow from the contractors that get the jobs to the wage employers might take time or may not be of that level. Therefore, the inequity, I am concerned, might increase. The national infrastructure pipeline's performance so far has not been very encouraging. The national monetization of assets for pipelines performance has also not been very encouraging, and therefore I would request the Honourable Finance Minister to be careful about this particular aspect. As far as employment is concerned, there has been 34% reduction in the NREGA funds. The percentage of employment that it will reduce is 17.64%. Urban employment, unlike Odisha, there has been no such scheme announced by the Finance Minister. I would strongly recommend similar scheme to be introduced, would have expected to be introduced in the budget. There is still time. As far as the green considerations are concerned, there are a number of announcements made by the Honourable Finance Minister, very welcome announcements relating to green considerations to make the economy run with the environment. However, a recent analysis of 16 major economies shows that India's stimulus package performs abysmally low in comparison to others with respect to green measures, particularly the decarbonization and carbon sequestering agenda. I think that could be put on track. As far as women empowerment is concerned, the labor force participation has decreased from 36.7% to 26%. And we know that Honourable Chief Minister of Odisha has rightly said, we cannot deprive half of our population of their rights. They must have their rightful place in not only economic but political space of our country. The budget, unfortunately, fails to give this push. While for the first time recognizing the potential women of SHGs in creating wealth at the bottom of the pyramid, it fails to open up new avenues of gainful business for them, as done in Odisha. In several sectors, the women SHGs have been pushed to perform business, and therefore their income has increased, the wealth of the state has increased at the bottom of the pyramid. It is indeed the need of the hour to introduce 33% reservation quotas for women in Parliament, to increase the representation of women, and to ensure their inclusivity in legislatures. Our concerns, sir, as far as fiscal federalism is concerned, the state is going to lose 12,000 crores. Similarly, 6,000 crores is the gap between 2020-21 and 21-22 budget estimates, about 5,000 crores in CSS schemes, and from the 15th Finance Commission recommendations, which is the horizontal devolution, has decreased from 4.629% to 4.528% in the coming 5 years. So approximately 12,000 crores is the loss that the state, a poor state like Odisha, has to bear. Odisha is losing because of good performance. Odisha has never had a revenue deficit until about 2 years ago. And for that reason, Odisha will not get a revenue deficit grant. The fiscal burden of the state, as far as devolution is concerned, it is 1.50 of GTR 2021 to 1.36%. As far as railways are concerned, sir, in the last 75 years, no railways in 6 districts, even in Odisha. Only one railway line in 7 years. Rupees 1.40 lakh has been collected as freight, but the expenditure on railways in Odisha is only 14,000 crores. Odisha is being used as a catchment area for mineral-based raw materials by railways. Is it fair? Isn't it a slap on the face of 4.5 crore ODIs? The rail density in Odisha is only 15, where the national density is 19, and in the neighboring West Bengal it is 44. In Jharkhand it is 24.3. Basic needs of credit to women, farmers, and MSMEs is also not taking place. Despite such sizable contribution to the national economy, Odisha has received little infrastructural support from the center in terms of tele-density, railway network, banking, national highways, and air connectivity that I talked about. Much more could have been done. We have had, of course, a demand for the special focus state, which has not happened, and being ravaged by cyclones and floods from time to time, we had made a strong pitch for a restoration, rehabilitation, and rebuilding scheme, a new scheme, which has not happened. The national highways improvement has not happened. The financial inclusion in Odisha leaves much to be desired. As far as rural housing is concerned, we have made a strong pitch, sir, to convert all kacha houses to pakka houses. Honorable Chief Minister of Odisha has written repeatedly for this, but it has not been agreed to by opening the window for Awaz Soft. In case of agriculture, there is an opportunity to implement a scheme for joint liability group so that sharecropping farmers could actually get loans, as has been done in Odisha. This is a suggestion. As far as energy, the Odisha has suffered a loss of rupees 194 crore and 345 crore in 1920 and 2021.
Please conclude. Your time is over,
on
sir.
Account of idle fixed charges now for surrender energy. Thank you, sir. I will be concluding in just half a minute. Over the past few years, sir, Odisha has maintained a consistent growth rate which has been higher than the national average. We ask not to be treated differentially, but with equity. We simply ask to be treated fairly and with a fair opportunity to strive. We have to be given our due space in the budget. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Amar Patnaik ji. Honorable Sri Antyur P. Selva Asu.